Unkle.
One,
Let's
2, 3, 4.
Bust it.
Money is not the root of all evil. It's the ones that carry it you should be worrying about.
You know, the word emotion kind of distorts everything because, like, when you take the letter E and you equate that to the word feelings, you kind of mess up the motion of things. So remove the E and keep moving. That's what you do.
Spitting that E to the IMP. He's spitting that E to the IMP. He's spitting that E to the IMP. Ain't nothing but pimpin' these days. He's spitting that E to the IMP. He's spitting that E to the
Welcome back to another episode of Elevator Dialogue here on the Unkle Jr. Network. I am the Unkle Jr. and on the panel today we have the nucleus. We have Victor, Accountable Masculinity Viziant. We have Antoine, the other artist Christopher, Dustin, Pew 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 Kavanaugh, and Christopher from across the table, McClellan. Coach not here today again this week. He got a bunch of things going on. FYI, just in case you didn't know, that is Vic on the intro right there. So that first song that you heard, that is him from back in the day. So he used to do music. I don't know if he's still doing it or not, but it is what it is.
I still got to do it every now and then. I might jam something out on my notes, but I hadn't recorded anything in a while. So, you know, I've been more focused on writing, you know what I'm saying, and try to do something a little bit more constructive, you know.
Yeah, I feel you on that.
Something applicable.
Yeah, I don't think it's a big market for 50-year-old rappers right now, but
I bet I can make one.
You can make.
I bet I can make one.
Hey, all things are true.
All things are true.
Hey, again, thank you all for joining us today on Elevator Dialogue. We're going to get into it in a few minutes, but before we do, I want to thank you all who are here tonight, or those who may watch the replay on YouTube. Just a heads up, if you are on Facebook, there is a longer delay. So if you want to be up to the second on the conversation, jump over to the Unkle Jr. Network over on the YouTube. And while you're over there, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification button. Lastly, if you're watching this video, go ahead and hit that like button. Shout out to all the unks, nephews, and servicemen out there. We salute you and appreciate you for what you do. Shout out to the chat. All right. You guys be getting busy over there. So shout out to the chat, the most elevated chat on YouTube. Appreciate y'all. Looking forward to Antoine when he hop in there and see what he be talking about today. He comes in and supports us. Not you, the other Antoine.
Yeah.
Hey man, but as far as the broad topic, you know, if you've seen the thumbnail, rap music cannot be blamed for the Highland Park shooting on 4th of July. We are going to kind of sort of want to get ahead of it before they say, oh, well, he was a rapper and this has something to do with that. So on 4th of July, just a couple of days ago, suspect Robert Crimo III, aka Awake the Rapper, did a horrific act by opening fire during a parade in Highland Park, Illinois. 6 people were killed and at least 36 others were injured. Rap music has been blamed for many things over the years when it comes to violence, but like many acts of violence, it is never just one thing. As with this situation, so before we start to hear media blame rap, we're going to talk about why rap music has nothing to do with this, what or who is to blame for this, and lastly, what men can learn from this situation. Maybe it is the gun laws that are responsible. Awake the Rapper apparently had a Spotify account with millions of downloads. According to one article, he had numerous videos that highlighted weapons and show him sitting in the school classroom. One of his songs had 2 million listens. One of his videos is called Famous, and his latest songs posted were added on May 13th, 2022. One of the things the media tends to do is highlight the shooter. Although we are going to touch on some of that, the focus and intent are not to in any way highlight him or his actions, but to again see what we as men can learn from this. Remember, at the end of the day, all things are true. Let's have some dialogue. So we're going to start this conversation off with the first question of the evening, and it is, why is rap music not to blame for this?
I'll start off. You know what I'm saying? Since we're gonna have the awkward pause, like
I like the awkward pause.
yeah. Hey, look, if you take rap out of the conversation, a whole bunch of people are still dead. That's why. Yeah. So rap didn't kill people. Okay, like you can't. You see the argument that a lot of people like to have when they talk about guns and gun control is say guns don't kill people. People with guns kill people, right? Or irresponsible people, whatever variation you want to use for that. But when a shooting occurs and people want to use rap as the blame, they don't never have the same argument for rap music, because we just said guns don't kill people. People with guns kill it, right? So if people with guns are the people that's responsible for those being shot, isn't it more feasible to compare rap music as just, you know what I'm saying, it's like bacon on a sandwich. You either like it or you don't. You know what I'm saying? Like you just can't add bacon to the sandwich and then say that the sandwich is unhealthy because you could put bacon on it. You know, I just think that people pick and choose when they want to avoid the accountability conversation when it comes down to gun violence and talk about everything but the real metrics that it takes to prevent these types of things. We've seen enough of them occur where, like, how long do you sit back before you go on the offensive? And that's just my question on it. You know what I'm saying? Because like blaming a faceless entity is the ultimate version of a lack of accountability.
Yeah. I'm thinking, along the same lines. It's like, when you place blame on, like you said, rap music as a genre, you tend to take away from the accountability of the shooter and anything else. I mean, I know we may get into some mental illness part of it or not. But there's no way in the world you can blame rap, because if you blame rap, then you have to look into other genres of music where, doing drugs and all of those things are very, prevalent. Look at some of the rock and roll and heavy metals. Like
Johnny Cash had an album called Cocaine.
Yeah. So it's like, so, and, think about all of that stuff, so that's my 2 cents. Go ahead, Dustin.
But no, it's ignorant to the nth degree to sit there and be like, oh, it's movies, oh, it's television, oh, it's rap music, it's rock and roll, it's this, that, or the other. It's not. It's painful to listen to these talking heads on television always bringing those same things up or whatever. The rap music told him to that's a role. I mean, if like Little John, for example, is one of my favorite rappers, and that guy, when you listen to him talk, I'm just like that gentleman is an intelligent, articulate, well-versed. I mean, the guy is amazing, and he's super successful. He's crossed boundaries, but it's a role. It's a role that he plays. He's not a ball cap and sunglasses and gold teeth, gold chain drenched hoodlum. That's a role. It's just you're selling something. People want to hear that. He unlocks that party vibe in people, and that's a commodity that he's able to sell to people. And if you don't have the intellectual ability to determine what is make believe and what is reality, then you're doomed anyway. 20 years ago it was the video games. It was, and video games have only gotten more realistic and only got more violent and more bloody, but it's not the video games anymore because the video games have a hardened rep. I think it boils down to they want to go after the music industry because maybe the music industry isn't paying their fair share of political donations at the times that they need political donations, and the music industry makes a bunch of money. So now it's their time to pony up the dough and take responsibility. Hollywood or the movie industry is obviously spending tons of dough, so they're not going to go after the bloody movies, which if you go on Netflix, literally everything that Netflix has produced in the last 12 months has been some type of violent Bruce Willis movie. But it's not Bruce Willis's fault. It's not it's rap music. So that's what I'm supposed to believe when I listen. It's rap. It's the 19, 20, 21-year-old kids with face tattoos that are rapping about God knows what, but I'm to believe it's them. They're the problem now.
I grew up seeing Bugs Bunny shoot people while playing pianos. I grew up seeing Elmer Fudd shooting Daffy Duck's face off. You know,
how many times did you see Daffy
It's
Duck's
Wabbit
face
season.
Yeah.
right. You know,
Absolutely.
but
it wasn't no rap then.
how many school shootings got blamed on Bugs Bunny?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
it wasn't no rap then. You know what I'm saying?
You know what they're not. You know they're not going to go after. They're not going to go after Pfizer. They're not going to go after the drug companies. They're not going to go after the people on SSIs and things like that and say that it was drugs. I mean, like literally, they had an MSNBC guy post on Twitter 2 days ago about how great Pfizer was, and he said in the tweet that it was a paid promotion. So MSNBC is literally buying, or not Pfizer is literally buying paid promotion from reporters on their own Twitter accounts to say nice things about the drug company that just magically produced a vaccine that, oh, we can't know what's in it, and then they're not liable for lawsuit for any complications if you take it. By the way, we charge your health insurance $75 to $500 per pill that they prescribe you, or that your doctor prescribes.
$500 a pill.
Yes.
For what pill is
Ooh.
I'll look it up here and we go to a
Oh.
break or something like that. I'll bring it back around. But yeah, certain name brand drugs, they charge upwards of $500 per pill for to your bill to your insurance company.
That is
Wow.
crazy.
Hey, shout out to Tristan. Rapped About Thoughts had a storm called I Am the Storm. Did anyone else listen to the Killers' music? Anybody know about the Killers' music?
I remember, but I didn't listen to it because they was violent. It was the Killers. I'm completely being facetious right now. I don't know.
No, I've been free. I never heard of it before. I was wanting to know about it.
Well,
Exotic drugs and exotic pills. That's crazy.
I guess I'm gonna speak on the behalf of the entertainers because I
Okay.
know a lot of cats in the hip hop lane in my city who have gotten kind of big. These youngsters think that this is real. Like the hip hop from what I've learned talking to a couple of the cats that are in the hip hop game. Well, I'm not even gonna say hip hop. I'm gonna say rap because I grew up on hip hop. I grew up on Heavy D, Tribe, Kumo D, the Stop the Violence movement. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I grew up on all of that. And we wasn't that, and when we were coming up, we was actually trying to kill that shit because we saw where it was going. Now it's kind of glorified and it's cool to be like that. And these youngsters really think it's real. That's why it's Grand Theft Auto outside right now. You understand what I'm saying? It's like rap is a game of facades, and it's an image thing more than it is being who you supposed to be. So, I mean, I can't really blame the music, but I kind of put more accountability on the executives who are trying to push this narrative. Because a lot of cats that I know said that they wasn't going to do nothing and they wasn't going to get paid because they wasn't going to push the narrative that mainstream media pushes right now. So you can't, I'm not going to say blame rap music. I'm going to say blame the ones who are still attempting to push this false narrative. And I'm going to leave it at that.
What about you, Antoine? You think rap music is blamed?
Well, I'm not going to take the route.
Plays a part in it.
I'm not going to take the route and say that things aren't influential and things don't plant seeds in kids' heads because everything's influential. That's why we have commercials, right? People like Coke because you see the commercial. People go out and buy hamburgers because it puts something in your head. So actions and what you put out and what music you say. People hold a gun like that because they see a gangster. That everybody knows that's not the real way you hold a gun. But you'll see kids imitating what they see. on a video. And when music plays in your head long enough, you tend to believe it after a while. It's like you tell that same joke over and over. People actually think that joke happened, right? So I'm not going to say things don't influence. Things do influence. Now, this guy, in this guy's case, I didn't even know he was a rapper until you said it.
Right. I didn't know who this dude was either.
To me, it was a guy that had mental illness and snapped, right? That's how I looked at it but it had nothing to do with rap music. And even if I go back and listen to his music, I don't think he's going to say in his music that I want to go out and shoot a parade up, right? He's not going to say that. There's no coalition there, right? But things are influential. I mean, I was telling Dustin, I think the last time we spoke, I said, I played the game Fall of Man, and I was blown away how to load the gun and, snap it in there and pull it back. I was like, holy shit. I said, in my head, I'm thinking, I wonder how heavy the gun is. I wonder if it's easy to pull it back as I'm doing it in the video. These are questions that I had because of the game. So my first question was, and like I said, everybody knows I'm the first to say I'm scared of guns. I have no shame about that. Do I want a gun? Yes, because I want to be able to shoot you if you come into my house uninvited, and I want to be able to protect my family if ever, because a baseball bat can win against a gun, right? So flat out, yes, things influence. That's why it's called commercials and advertising. And the music you put out matters to the kids that repeat it daily. They love the words in it. They repeat the words in it. Some words you can't even repeat. Some words you can't even sing in school, right? And some words, white people can't sing the words that are coming out of some of these guys' mouths. So let's be real. So, but in this particular incident, no, there's nothing to blame rap music about. I don't even think I can blame rap music for anything dealing with shootings like that, because I've never heard one so close, right? For me. So, no.
Well, who is to blame then?
The
and I'll say it again. I'll always say it. For somebody to just make a random shooting like that, snapped in his mental illness, something in him that caused him to do that, a chemical imbalance. I don't believe in, maybe he had a bad day, but that's a hell of a bad day.
Yeah, but, I'm gonna keep it a buck.
But as a guy that does advertising, as a guy that does draw, as a guy that does paint, yes, my drawings influence others. And the image that I draw matters to me and matters to what you want to see. There's a reason why a Coke bottle is shaped the way it is, because sex sells and it's the shape of a woman. But you look at it as a Coke bottle. But subliminal message behind your head is it looks sexy. You just don't know that, right? And there's little messages hidden in everything you advertise. That's just
something about this dude. Something about this dude has to be off. And this might not be the PC way to say it, but something about this dude has to be off for him to just start licking shots like that at a parade. Like, I don't know anybody in their right mind that gets up and says, yeah, I'm about to do this performance, and then I'm gonna go to this parade where all of these people are and just light this place up. Maybe I need to get out more or something, but I've never heard of anybody actually thinking about doing that. Something in this dude has to be off.
You don't need friends with people like that.
Exactly.
So here's the thing. At what point are we going to have a real conversation about the frequency in which these events occur, the profile of the people that actually shoot, and the details that gives us a better conversation so that the person that's watching this can have a more well-rounded understanding? Because the reason I'm asking these very specific questions is that this is not new. We just talked about Uvalde. We just talked about the mass shooting in Buffalo. We just talked about the racist manifesto that went along with the shooter from Buffalo. We just and then to also note, a couple of days ago, there was a mass shooting that was thwarted in the same area where the Uvalde shooting took place. I'm not going to say the same region, not necessarily the same area. There was a guy that was apprehended that was planning to shoot the Amazon fulfillment center that was down there. You know what I'm saying? So, and it's the same profile. It's a young white male strapped up with a whole lot of different body armor, a lot of munitions. And as Dustin and I was talking off camera, and we've spoken before, people are spending a lot of money to make sure that these young, poor folks that's going out to do these shootings are armed to the teeth. You know what I'm saying? Because even if I had $10,000 to $12,000 to blow or spend on myself, I'm not thinking about going to buy a firearm or go buy a bunch of gear, you know what I'm saying, to go walk around so I can go hurt other people. You know, there's a certain profile of individual that fits that. And I think that when people start really getting into the detail, you got to understand that until folks are willing to wage war on mass shooters, the same way they have this affinity to stop the war on drugs, or the affinity they have for the war on terror and everything else, you know what I'm saying? Until they approach this situation with the same energy and prepared to do something kinetic and risk bad press and infringing other people's rights the way they infringe on other folks' rights on a regular basis, and stop picking and choosing, then we're going to have this problem as a regular thing. You know what I'm saying? No different than a cockroach.
Hey, shout out to, I guess it's Diesel Greasel, if that's your name. I hope I got it right.
Yeah, that's my man, old Diesel.
Hey, what's up, Diesel Greasel? Hey, let's chew on this. He said entitlement, you know, since we trying to figure out, you know, who is to blame, we already understand there's more than just one thing. I mean, I think everybody watching and everybody on here on the panel understands that, but just trying to share some light on some of the things that it could be. Diesel Greasel says entitlement is to blame because only those who are empowered feel privileged enough to commit such an attack and live to tell about it. So what do you guys feel about this statement right there?
Well, there is a thing called affluenza, right? So that has been proven or whatever. But why can't we just call it crazy? Why does it have to be something, right? Why can't it be a guy that lost it and snapped? We never talk about that. Mental illness is real. People are this pandemic messed a lot of people up. A lot of people lost a lot of things, including family members, right? Those are real lives that you read about. Forget the conspiracy saying it wasn't real or not, whatever. So, you know, I know people that really lost a lot. People lost their livelihood, their source of income. This affected a lot of people. And let me tell you something. Sometimes you got a gun long enough, you want to fire it, right? And why can't it just be, people are crazy today. People are arguing in Ralph's and Vaughn's and these grocery stores like there's no tomorrow. This is one guy that, again, amongst many, that just snapped. Until you could call it whatever you want, this, that. There's some people that just snap. And this is one of them. Is it always the case? No. Are we really going to get down to the bottom? Dip. We can have our own theories, our own thoughts, our own ideology, what we believe. But at the end of the day, it's a crazy guy with a gun. And he shouldn't have had a gun in the first place. I would like to, you know, sit down and have an interview and say, why did you do what you did? Was it politically motivated? Was it like you lost somebody? Were you feeling hurt? Were you, you know, shunned as a kid? Did you not have friends? Like there's layers behind this, right?
Was it publicity motivated?
What is publicity? Were you not the kid that you know never got picked when your hand was raised? There's a lot, man. You know,
I think to keep it on the space to what Diesel said. He said entitlement is to blame because only those who are empowered feel privileged enough to commit such an attack and live to tell about it. And what he's saying is he knows that there's a group of people, there's a demographic in America that can go shoot people and turn themselves in and not worry about if they're gonna get killed.
Right.
That's what he's saying.
We just heard about that boy that got lit up 60 times for being a DoorDasher.
Exactly. Yeah, like the police fired 90 shots at him, hit him 60 times. He was unarmed, and strangely enough, they came back and found a weapon in his car. Now, if he had a weapon in his car and he was prepared to run, that don't even make any sense. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So my point being is that if you could shoot a human being, you know, fire 90 shots at a human being, and 2/3 of the bullets end up inside the human being, and then you got this white guy that can go shoot up a whole bunch of folks and then go to jail, detained and not shot and killed. We got some big questions that we need to ask about who, you know what I'm saying, deserves the protection that they're getting. You know what I'm saying?
Where did he do it? He did it in Illinois, right?
Yeah, Highland Park, Illinois.
Illinois doesn't have a death penalty.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. They pick and choose.
So all I got to do.
I did not
all I
know
gotta do
that.
is surrender peacefully, and they're not going to kill me.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It's a strategic move why they do that, and that's the point. And I think New York is the same way too, if I'm not mistaken. So
yeah, New York don't have a death penalty.
The same guy that shot up all those people in Buffalo surrendered peacefully. You know what I'm saying? But then also,
but from a police officer's perspective, white, black, brown are indifferent, right? If they surrender, they've surrendered. If I shoot them, now I'm going to jail for life because I murdered a suspect. Regardless of what they did, I'm not the judge, jury, and executioner.
Absolutely.
In most cases. Now, granted, there are, and there's exceptions to everything, bad actors everywhere. But let's just say that you get a parade field full of good guys that are going after this one bad guy, right? He surrendered. We can't kill him. We can't kill him. We can fuck him up once we get him in custody, but we can't kill him.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
He can resist arrest later, but we can't kill him. Whatever it is. But yeah, he did it, and he did it. If he'd have drove through Gary, Indiana, and tried to shoot up a parade in northern Indiana, he'd absolutely gotten a death penalty. But he didn't do that. He didn't want to come over to Indiana, and he didn't want to go to Minnesota either to do it, because I think Minnesota has a death penalty. He made sure he did it, and he made sure he did it in Illinois. They're not going to murder him.
Does Wisconsin have a death penalty? Because he was playing in a second attack.
Let me see. I'll look it up real quick.
Yeah, check that out. Because it's like, I always say when these things happen, and I'm keen on repeating this, they already know where these people are. Because if we can see 4 or 5 articles.
Wisconsin outlawed the death penalty in 1853.
And that was his next plan to go shoot too. So he definitely was picking out places where he was going to feel like if he pulled the trigger, he wasn't going to get killed unless somebody killed him in the act.
He go kill anybody he wants as long as they catch him unarmed. He's fine.
Yep.
Are you kidding me? That's a thing?
Yeah.
Kenyon says, shout out to Kenyon. He says entitlement and privilege is major. Let's stick with the entitlement page. You guys, any of y'all feel like there's some, I know we said that's kind of sort of entitlement, but Antoine, I know you kind of mentioned that it's more of a snap thing. Do you feel like more so he snapped, or because I think I'm pretty sure it was premeditated.
Entitled to what? Dig deep. Entitled to what?
Entitled, like growing up, maybe privileged, whatever.
He didn't grow up in a poor neighborhood. That's for damn sure.
You think somebody that grew up privileged is going to say, yeah, you know what, let me go and kill 6 people in a crowd or whatever? You really think that's probable? Like somebody that's so entitled is going to say, out of the blue, wake up one day, I have all these millions in here waiting for my dad to die, and I'm going to go and shoot somebody.
I'm not saying that. No, I'm asking.
That would even be a form of craziness.
No, I'm asking because sometimes people have mentioned just now in the chat, they're saying that this is possibly has something to do with him being entitled. So I'm asking you, do you feel like his entitlement or entitlement in general has anything to do with him being the reason why this event happened?
No. I think he's doing it, like I said, a part of him snap, shock value, playing to recognition, acknowledgement. How many followers is he going to get now out of this? This is one idiot that picked up a gun and decided to do something stupid. That's how I look at it. Because I don't see a common man. Are there crazies? Yes, but I don't see a common man. According to you, he had so many followers. He was making money from it. Whatever.
Yeah.
He did this for notoriety.
You think it was all notoriety?
Oh yeah.
Cloud is a thing. Doing stuff for cloud is a thing.
Yeah, I'm part crazy. He will be remembered. Don't get me wrong. He will be remembered. Right.
I watched a video Colion Noir did in like 2014, back before he was web famous and even on the NRA channel. But he talked about people doing it for good, bad, or indifferent. Famous is famous, right? And he said, why do we give so much press to these shooters and not to their families or whatnot? And that kind of stuck with me. What if you stopped naming these guys that did it and just called them the unknown subject until after the trial and everything is done? What if everything that was released to the public was about the people that was shot and nothing about the shooter? Now, granted, there might be some type of outcry like we need to know, but like, don't advertise his life. Just fucking catch him, try him, fry him, and move on. If you
Try 'em
stop
and
getting
fry 'em.
famous, if you stop getting famous for doing terrible shit to mankind, maybe I won't say that it'll stop all of it. And that's naive to think that it would. It might stop somebody.
I think they should publicly go after him to get the answers. Why did they never, after it's said and done and he gets trialed and he goes, they never talk about why. They just
why would you give him more press though?
It doesn't matter. I would like to have more understanding. I think the public is owed that. I think people are owed that more understanding, so they can recognize signs. They can recognize things that cause what they cause. Right?
I don't think there's a market for it.
Knowledge is power, and I think that. Listen, I didn't put it this way. On a smaller level, I didn't really know the effects of alcoholism. I really was numb to it because I'm not a drinker like that, right? But I could never understand how people could wake up and have a beer until I saw this documentary of this guy that was a functioning alcoholic. Not that I even knew it was a thing. Millionaire, but at the end, he couldn't wait to get home. And this guy, we're not talking just average millions. We're talking like millions. Like 400 or 500 mil. And at the end of the day, 5 o'clock, like clockwork, he would go home and get plastered till the next day he has to wake up to do business. And, his wife stayed with him because he was paying all the bills and she enjoyed the life. And she always said, I just let him do him because from 6 in the morning till 5, he was the husband I wanted. And I'm not saying it just would be nice to know what's behind that, the layers behind someone like that. For me, I would like to know that. Well, and I think that'll be a learning thing for everybody.
Well, and I agree with that too, because how many of you guys know the story of Emmett Till? Or heard
there you go. Yeah.
Okay. So Emmett Till's mom sent him to Mississippi to kick it in the summer with his relatives, right? And that's when the act happened where he was put on trial, and
the lady lied, basically.
The lady lied, and he was beaten to death and all that good stuff, right? And not to minimize it, I want to capture the point here. She argued to have an open casket funeral, so the world could see how her baby was beat the hell up. So we are doing a disservice by not putting a face and a name.
Yes,
to people that actually do the shooting. Because when we start seeing the frequency of who's doing what, then we got to pay it some attention. Anonymity has never helped the person that's doing the shooting. You know what I'm saying? Like anonymity.
Okay, so publish the name at the close of the trial.
Well, I hear what you're saying. You talking about trying to protect the integrity of the case and keep the public opinion.
Not even that. Just 20 minutes from now, they're going to be done talking about it, and they're going to move on to the next big thing, right? But for the last 3 days or whatever, this kid's gotten wall-to-wall fucking coverage on a 24-hour news cycle.
Which is
how many of the millions of views that are on his stuff now came after he shot all those people, right? So how many people have went looked or whatever? So yeah, give the public what they want, which is the inquiring public, which is going to go back and try to track it down. The ones that are really going to put in the work. But for the cursory viewer, for the cursory folks that are, that have the 5-second attention span, they're going to watch a 30-second CNN clip and then go Google something and then end up watching cat videos. For those people,
for real.
They don't need the names, right? They don't need to know who it is. The people that actually want to know, when the case is closed and the trials are brought down, publish it, right? Publish who it was, who did it. So they're not getting massive nationwide exposure for every single little, they know what this kid ate for breakfast that morning, his shoe size. They probably somewhere have his dick size. Like all of that shit is out there, and we don't need it to be.
What?
I missed my button. I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't prepared for it.
I was waiting on it.
I wasn't prepared for it.
I was like, when, now?
It was a good one. It was a good one.
He thought you sleeping on that one.
Yeah, because I was listening, so intently, because I know exactly which podcast you was listening to, because I actually just listened to that same one about 2 weeks ago, and when he was talking about this same thing, and it's almost like they make him like a martyr or something. You know, kids look up to these guys and
Yeah.
like, oh man, I want to do
Mhm.
this. You know what I mean? So I do think that there is an element of that does go into some of this. Not all of it, but I would,
No, it's not, and it's
I
not.
do think there's there's some of it that goes into it.
Let me speak from a targeting background on something like this, right? If you have a follow-on mission to, like, you don't go after the little fish. Like, let's say if this is somebody's little fish that just happened, right? And killed a bunch of people, yes, it's absolutely tragic. But if there's a larger strategic goal that they needed him to do something in order to see what the next 2 or 3 pieces going to move, you know how this stuff gets when you got multiple agencies involved. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not just the local police watching these people. It's other people that already know about these individuals already. You know what I'm saying? And that's no miss. You know, like, we can look at it. By the time they start talking about social media and who's involved, and like, just like this individual we're talking about, the feds have been looking at you. They've been stacked up everything. You know what I'm saying? So that's why they knew to go there. Why did we know what his revenue stream was off of his spins on SoundCloud? Why did we know he had 16,000 fans before the names of the people that he actually shot? So yeah, you see that when you start putting that correlation to it, you got to look at it like this, man. From the targeting aspect, yes, I understand what Dustin is saying. Don't publish the name until the end of it, because you kind of want to have everybody on pins and needles so you can get the reaction that you need to get. So you know who to go after. You know what I'm saying? After that, if there's a will to go after, because it's not about a lack of capacity, it's about a lack of will. You know what I'm saying? I keep saying we need to have kinetic options now, you know, at this point. Because all we're doing is sitting back and waiting for the next one. We've been through 2 solid months, and we on 3 school shootings. We on 3 mass shootings. You know what I'm saying? Combine either school or 4th of July. Pick one. You know what I'm saying? We've seen old people get killed in Buffalo. We've seen kids get killed in Uvalde and outside of San Antonio. And now we're talking about a 4th of July parade where a whole bunch of people been killed. You know what I'm saying? Unnecessarily. And we hear more about deaths in America than we do about Ukraine and Russia right now.
Well, they don't want you talking about Ukraine and Russia right now.
And my point, and that's one of the points that I'm making. Like, all of this stuff starts to pile over itself. But if you really care, you will find a specialized outlet to go get more information about it, because there's too many podcasts, there's too many think tanks, there's too many people talking about it. Just like we're having a conversation, very generalized, but we care about it enough because this kind of changed our programming for the night. We decided to go with this topic because it's hot and it's necessary, and we want to have a mature discussion around it, because over time we've had nothing but arguments about who did this and who did what, and it's just a lot of bloviation back and forth, and then we forget about what's going on. You know what I'm saying? Unless that's your niche and that's what you do. But and I'm saying, though, can we afford to go another 20 years in the future? You know what I'm saying? With another mass shooting happening every 2 to 3 months. School's about to start back next month. Like, can we really afford to keep talking about this over another decade?
Follow the timeline, though. Follow the timeline, right? They know that the Supreme Court's going to vote on a gun control thing, and I'm speaking abstractly. Call it conspiracy, whatever. They know the Supreme Court's going to vote on a gun.
The primaries this year. That's right.
That was on the day. that was on the docket, right? So they hit the thing. They do the thing in Buffalo because they want, white dudes shooting black people. Then that needs to happen. They turn around and everybody blames the shooter. So this kid was crazy. This kid was this. This kid was that. So they're like, well, crap, that didn't work. Go after the children. So then they get a Hispanic child down in Uvalde, who, this was really weird to me. I've never heard of Uvalde, Texas, anywhere in the news other than friggin' Matthew McConaughey's book. Only time I've ever heard of Uvalde, and I lived in Texas. The 4 days prior to the shooting, the governor the mayor of Uvalde was on Fox News, trash talking Biden's border policy. 4 days later, they're shooting up a school in his town, right? Hispanic kid killed a bunch of other people or whatever, right before the gun control vote in the Supreme Court. They didn't blame the guns then, though. Some did, but it didn't take the traction, and the Supreme Court still voted in line with the Second Amendment, which negatively affected New York's laws and New York's laws, Illinois' laws, and California's laws. A big impact. And then after they lost, they hit them again, right? But this time at a parade, right? To target your freedom. And you get so many coincidences. Like they just stop being coincidences. It's not. I mean, you were in targeting. Like you watched. How many people did you watch that did nothing? Right?
Yeah.
How many people did you guys go after that? Like, oh, okay, so that was just one. He just happened to be in the same cafe as this other interesting cat. He's nobody. It was just one coincidence, right? But then you get coincidence after coincidence after coincidence. You're like, well, we're gonna watch this guy a little bit more, right? So let's put something on.
So you're tying into the politics, and that's cool. You know what I'm saying? Because everything has a political ramification, no matter how you do the math, right? Like it's true for somebody else, but like, what about the mass shootings that happened under different administrations? Was it the same thing that you was assessed to? Like, I mean, like let's just take the bipartisan conversation piece out of it.
When was the last major school shooting committed by somebody with questionable? I mean, we had the Parkland thing, right? But that kid was just a whack job, and everybody that knew him knew he was a whack job. The FBI knew he was a whack job. The local police department knew he was a whack job. He was on everyone's radar, and they did nothing, right? But he didn't come out of left field and start shooting up a place that he had no affiliation with. He shot up his own high school, right? He didn't go. He wasn't a stranger from an outside perspective that went and shot up other people's children, right? He went to school with all those kids. Prior to that, you had Newtown, where a stranger with mental deficiencies or mental defects, medicated and well known, murders a significant family member, steals weapons, enters school zone, and then shoots up a whole bunch of kids in a place that he's never been before.
Yeah, he was 18, and he shot up a bunch of 7-year-olds, 7 to 10-year-olds. Yep.
So you notice the deviation, like the Klebold kids out in Colorado, when all this school shooting stuff started. Those assholes were psychopaths, and they hated everybody in their school, and they planned it, and they publicly. I mean, all of that stuff was found. All of those details were found that they were planning on doing that for a really long time, right? And then there was follow-on or copycats after that, but the stuff just kind of died down. But the one thing that always makes me ask questions, and you working and targeting as well, why is it? What was the interest, and was it target of opportunity, or was he told to go there when you have people that have never ever once entered that facility go in and shoot that facility up?
And who do you think told him?
That I don't know, and I don't want to regulate on because I don't want them to shoot me in my sleep.
No, that's point out. No, that's not. I mean, no. These shootings are happening because, like I said, I don't believe any of this is the government, and nobody's going to give up their lives like that to go and spend the rest of their lives in jail and be in the public eye as a mass killer, a mass shooter. Okay, these things are happening because people are getting triggered, and things that trigger you is when it affects your life, economy-wise. You have nothing to live for.
Anton, for the last 20 years, they've been getting people to strap on vests and walk into public places and blow themselves up. Whew. The fact that you believe that somebody's not going to go to prison or not going to do something, right? Guys will ride around the block and shoot up guys that are wearing different colors than them, and knowing full well that they'll go to prison. If you think
that's for your own personal cause.
If you believe that fear of prosecution is enough to keep somebody from doing something, you are lying to yourself.
No, I never said that. What I believe in is if you have a reason to do something and you're doing it for your own personal cause, you will strap on a vest. Yes, I believe in that. Okay? I mean, people do that. But if you're telling me the government's setting this up so you can plan to go to a school and shoot up kids, and then, let's wait, let them do this one, so we're going to vote on gun laws. Let's let this one go by so we can have a stronger stance on changing the gun. Really? No. I refuse to believe that someone could be so mean and cruel to say, okay, we're going to let these kids die because we're going to be ruling on gun laws. So let's just let it happen, and then we'll have enough power to change it. That is ridiculous.
You've obviously never studied human history.
It doesn't matter about studying human history. I would like to say we evolved beyond that. You people keep bringing up the past.
We've gotten worse.
You can't bring up the past. You cannot bring up the past.
You just talk about people fighting in the freaking grocery store over loaves of bread. We are way worse than we were. We have not evolved. No, we have devolved as a population. We have devolved as a society.
Listen, too many people bring up the past to justify their asinine shit they do today. All right? Everybody does that. And it's always, oh, it happened then, and oh, I was suffering back then, and oh, you know, this is why I did it. No, you're just an idiot. You had a gun. You had access to a gun. No one liked you. You're the kid whose hand was raised in class that never got picked, and you snapped. And you picked the right time. Just like when they act on, there's these guys that, like, if you act on a gay parade, some people are just so boiled up inside when they see two men kissing or walking down they go, I can't believe this is happening in my country. And it's not.
Thank you.
So I would really rather believe that than people letting things happen in order to change the way things go down.
Hey, but at the end of the day, all things are true. You know what I mean? And since we are right there, you know what I mean? Let's switch over to this question. You know, how do we as men protect ourselves from situations like this if we can? You know, this is a men's platform to always talking about helping kids, helping men, helping young men, whoever tunes in. So how do we protect ourselves if we can? You know?
I'm going to be a fly on the wall for this one because I'm kind of like Antoine. Mm-hmm. I'm scared of guns. I fired one once and I would never do it again because having the power to take a life is a responsibility that I don't think I'm ready for. However, I don't believe in infringing on other people's rights just because I don't believe something. So if somebody wants to go get a gun, go get a gun. I'm just listening. Y'all go ahead and cook. Matter of fact, I'm gonna use my mic.
Oh, but I
want to put Chris on the spot. I'd like to hear what he from a non gun owner's perspective. I'd like to hear what it would be that you would do to defend yourself in a situation like that. Because guns aren't always the answer, and I'm definitely not going to give that. You know, I'm more open minded about things than that. You know, but I would, just for my own information and maybe for the audience's information, I'd like to hear what you had to say. I don't want you to silence yourself.
It's not really about silencing myself. Like I said before, when we were talking before we hopped on, I don't want to be one of those guys that have a pseudo-moralistic stance on something that I'm really not knowledgeable about. I would rather hear from everybody else. You know what I'm saying? I sincerely do not know. So I can't answer that question. I don't know how do you protect yourself from a mass shooting? How do you protect yourself from some guy who wants to just flat out go out and kill a bunch of people and there's nothing that you can do about it? Like I don't know. So I would rather hear from y'all. Like seriously, I don't want to be one of those guys. You understand what I'm saying? So I would rather hear from y'all. Especially since I have somebody that's in the gun industry and somebody that's been in the military. You understand what I'm saying? Y'all been on that side of it. I've never been. My family's in law enforcement. My family's in military. But I myself, I've shot a gun once. And I don't think I would ever do it again, at least not without proper training. So I don't know.
You come visit anytime you want. We'll hook you up.
That's what's up. I appreciate it. You got that right.
I'm picking Dustin up on. You keep talking. I'm taking you up on that.
Come on down. Come on down.
I think the key word that Chris just hit on to answer the question, though, how does we as men protect ourselves from situations like this? Is training. It's assessing your environment, figuring out, you know, like what's the worst case scenario every time. It's no different than if you decide that you're gonna go party somewhere. You're gonna ask, what side of town is it on? What do I need to wear? Who all going to be there? And all those different things, right? And got to be more intentional about getting in and getting out. And I really believe that, you know, you can't go and hang out in public places for a long period of time like you wanted to in the past. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to move with a purpose. You have to really, really be intentional. Excuse me, be intentional about when you leave the house, what you're going to do. Be very direct about where you're going, and it sounds like you're moving crazy, but like until something crazy happens, and especially if you don't have the training, you're not prepared to carry a weapon. You ain't prepared to, you know what I'm saying, deal with a chaotic event. You know what I'm saying, and that ain't your thing. Then I suggest you move out smartly and order your shit on Amazon and have it sent to the house.
And I'll even add to that because, you know, if I had kids, I would raise them the way my father raised me, right? He always said, "Son, watch your back." When I was younger, he would say, "Where you going?" "Oh, to the park." "Who you going with?" "Oh, my friend from school." "What's his name?" I'd say, "Jay." Let's say, "Have I met Jay?" "No." "Well, I guess I have to meet him before you go to that park, right?" Well, yeah. My father had to know everybody when I was younger, and then as I got older, when it was none of his business, he started saying, "Okay, seriously, be more vigilant, all right? Because you're around idiots." You know what I mean? Don't forget your environment. Look around. Be observant, right? And I grew with that kind of like paranoia in me, like, okay, you know. He goes, if you go into a club, look for the exit door. At least you can run to it, right? And I was like, wow, that's true. I never thought about that, right? Where's the quickest exit? So, you know, I would pay attention to that. You can't stop your kids from going out and enjoying themselves. They're gonna do it. Now you have to be more careful. It's not like when you and I were younger, and you know you can leave the front door open and still go to sleep. Things have changed. It's not like that anymore, right? So you have to be aware of your environment. You have to know where the exit is. You know what I mean? You have to be suspicious of everybody that comes in. You know, a guy comes into a movie theater. He has a long trench coat. Well, you ain't exactly gonna. You have to ask yourself. You can't laugh at it. You have to say, what's he got underneath there? It's hot outside. Why is he wearing that? And you have to voice your opinion of people next to you. So I think that today's world, you have to be more vigilant. You have to be, you know, like the Boston Marathon, how they are now, you know, the cops, and they put more people on the streets and on the beat. Like, it's like Vic says, you have to start looking around now. You have to start really, am I going to a baseball game? Okay, if I go, what could happen? You have to ask yourself these questions. And is it worth going? Right? But if you're there, you see trouble happening, you don't stop and pull out your phone and start filming. You look for the quickest exit and grab who you're with to jet. You know, but people will look at fights. If somebody was right next to that shooter, I guarantee you they'd pull out their phone and start filming him just to get on the news, just to have
and
that,
just
footage.
To get some clicks and views,
just to get that footage. I bet you if he was shooting somebody you're getting that footage. You're like, you know what? I'm gonna duck, play dead, but stick that. You're gonna do it.
All things are true. Shout out to Ken for the comment. He says, "Man, at this point, I don't even know no more in this world. I have 2 daughters." That's a real statement right there. Like, this dude got 2 daughters. You know what I mean? Chris said that he honestly don't know, and I think that's a lot of people probably have that fear. You know what I mean? Especially in that city, cities, you know, nearby. I work in the elementary school. The fear is real. I don't know where the line is and where you draw between going out and having a good time and big crowds versus not. I know me personally, I just have not a big fan of big crowds. You know, I've deployed to Iraq twice. Even though I stayed on the FOB most of the time, you still in Iraq, and you eventually at some point, at least for me, start developing a mindset of that I could die at any moment. So it's kind of like, and I've brought that over with me. So like I'm constantly everywhere I go, I'm always looking for someone who, you know, so people say, you know, they're supposed to judge people. I judge everybody I see because good, bad, or indifferent based off of what I've been shown and based off what I've seen and whatever. I'm not saying I'm necessarily, well, I don't, mistreat or treat anybody any differently just because I feel I may think a certain thought about this person, but I'm always walking around using caution. You know what I mean? As the head of the household, as the leader, like you have to, part of our responsibility of men is to provide their protection. So my head is constantly on the swivel. Not only do I have to protect myself, but I have to protect my lady when I'm out. I'm constantly looking at interactions that she's having with people or interactions that people are, you know, having with her or, you know, anybody. You know, I'm just always on alert. I don't know if it was the military, I don't know if it's me, but me, I'm always on alert. So anytime I step out
I
the
don't
door,
trust nothing. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Like I don't trust nothing. If I ain't say it, or it hadn't happened already, there's no reason for me to, you know what I'm saying, like believe that I can trust it.
Mhm.
Especially when you think about like geography. You remember in 2016 that Pulse nightclub shooting, and like all those people, I think it was like 47 people that got shot up at this gay club.
Mhm.
Where the guy was like in a window, like sniper like, just
No,
lighting
no,
cats up.
no,
He
Is
no.
that
blocked,
it?
It was
he
like
blocked
six.
the door.
Yeah,
So my sister and her wife lived in Orlando, like literally right around the corner when that Pulse nightclub happened. They lost
That was a
friends.
hate crime, right?
That
Holy sh!
I think that went down as a hate crime.
that should have if it didn't. It was a Muslim immigrant. The dad was, dad and mom were supposedly pretty clean, straight laced people or whatever. But for whatever reason, this dude just broke, and but he blocked the door and opened fire with a semi automatic rifle.
Yeah.
How did he get in the door?
he was
That
he was
I mean, dude, like it's Orlando. If you've ever been to Orlando, everybody's your friend in Orlando. Like nobody, especially in that part of town. Like I say, my sister and them, they lived right around the corner. I mean, like you go there. I literally the first time I ever seen a Hare Krishna outside of an airport was in that neighborhood. Like I mean, they're just literally walking down the street. Like everybody, as humid as it is, they're still happy, which is weird. But like say, probably nobody saw a threat to that nightclub. It was, and it's terribly tragic, but it was a nice part of town. It was a good community, and it's absolutely fucking tragic.
That's unfortunate.
Wow,
Very unfortunate.
that's
Yep.
deep.
Shout out to the Facebook user who remains anonymous. How rap even in the title? Dude was 20-year-old white boy. He also was a rapper. Do the research. You find it for yourself. No shade.
No shade.
So when you start getting into the details about, we're sitting back here now, and some people that don't fire weapons, people that have fired weapons, and neither one of us has a real answer. You know what I'm saying? We talk about what we might do, but we also understand that there's a chance that whatever plan you got doesn't even matter until you get shot or shot at. You know what I'm saying? You could be aware of your surroundings, like knowing where the nearest exit is, no different than getting off a plane. You can operate as swiftly as you want to, but like it's plenty of people that just said they was going to the store and coming right back home and something happened to them, or somebody dropped their kid off at school and said, "I'll pick you up at 3 or whatever time." And even though you dropping these people off in safe places or a false sense of security, like if your kids ain't safe at school, they ain't shit safe.
You're not safe at home.
Mm.
I mean, you're not. You think you might be, but
Yep.
the reality, you're not safe in the grocery store. You're not safe, like, and I'm not even safe in my car anymore. Some dude, right here, literally right outside of my shop on the interstate yesterday, some guy lost his life over a road rage incident on the interstate or whatever. Ended up crashing his truck into a bridge embankment and killed him, injured his family and everything like that. But what we were hearing this morning on local talk radio was over a road rage incident. Like no shots were fired, but these assholes are out there swerving at each other. And every
Grand
single
Theft Auto
panel that drives any more than 5 minutes a day has seen road rage in some type of some type of thing. Like people are just angry. There's no cookie cutter answer as to what you do in a mass shooting situation. This little mother, I caught myself. You didn't have to beat me. This little guy that was up there shooting these people, and I say little guy because I mean it. This is just fucking tiny little garbage. He had an elevated fighting position. He wasn't trying to engage. He wasn't trying to be engaged. He had an elevated firing position. He was going to do as much damage as he could. To make sure that he could get out of there as quickly as possible in case there was anybody else there with firearms. He wasn't. So how do you engage that? You don't. You leave. You figure out where he's going and figure out how you can get out of his line of sight. If you're in a closed in situation in a movie theater or whatnot, there's no, you're going to have panic. You're going to have people running and screaming. There might be another shoot. There might be somebody else in there with a concealed carry permit that sees you shooting at the guy that started the shooting and may confuse you for the shooter. That happened with a good Samaritan in Colorado. Actually stopped a masked gunman, shot him, and then when he showed up, the police rewarded him with instant death. It's so there's no right answer. You can Google that one, Chris, from across the table. That happened. It was 2018, I think.
I remember.
I'm new to all of this. Seriously.
Yeah.
So, there's, it's not a cookie cutter. It's not a cookie cutter thing. It'd be great if all of us were born with Rambo knife skills, so that anytime somebody started shooting, we just sneak up and stick them in the neck and save the day. But the reality of it is that like how Clint Smith is a retired special operator, teaches a class out in Oregon for combat carbine. Mostly law enforcement, some affluent gun enthusiasts can go take his course, but he always asks people at the beginning of his classes, how good are you? How good are your skills when your heart beats 220 beats a minute and you got, fuss in your shorts, right? You're not, when things go down, you resort to your highest level or lowest level of training. And there's no right answer. And I don't think that there's an answer other than engagement. I mean, we have to, as humans, we have to engage one another about these, about the risks. And Congress just passed all this red flag law stuff, which there's good and bad to that. There's good and bad to the situations that they set in place. They put in a lot of vague language. That's going to be problems for legality stuff and a lot of challenges in court, I assume. Not an attorney, but as far as how do you protect your families, like Anton said, be vigilant. Look around. You can see somebody out of place because they're usually yeah.
Stay off your phone.
Yeah.
That's one thing you can do right there. Just be aware of your surroundings.
I 100% agree with that.
I mean, I use my phone a lot too, but like it's on this. It's like when I'm walking in the parking lot, man, I'm not on it.
I ain't looking at nothing.
Like,
well, this isn't a mass shooting protection, but like my wife and I like to go out, and I party a little bit harder than she does, and sometimes she'll want to leave before the night's up. Typically, if I'm going to be out drinking, I'll Uber. If she ever gets in an Uber without me, I always take a picture of the driver and I take a picture of the license plate.
Yeah, there you go.
And she's like, why do you do that? It makes the Uber drivers uncomfortable. It's like, if I go home and you're not home, that's the first mofo I'm going after.
There you go. And it's sad that you have to do that, but it's the way it is today.
And it's just one little thing. That's, in that particular situation that alcohol has put me in, where my wife doesn't want to watch me get, tanked with my friends, then she goes home. When she goes home in an Uber, I know the Uber, I know the guy's face, and I know the guy's vehicle.
Yeah. And I knew it wasn't going to be a definitive answer, but I did just want to at least bring it up to, for those particular reasons right there. If you haven't already done so, hit the like button. But let's switch over to the whole sole purpose of the platform at the end of the day, and is what can men learn from this? Good, bad, or indifferent. What do y'all think that men can look at this situation and pull from this?
Think it's three-dimensional world, right? It's not cookie cutter, and nothing's ever gonna be the same every time. Think abstractly, right? And a lot of cop friends, one of my favorite things that they say is think like a criminal, right? Like, you go out there, if I were going to shoot this place up, what would I do? Or, if I were going to try to rob somebody here, how would I do it? If I were going to try to, if I'm going to do crime here, what would I do? So just think abstractly. That's what we need to do as men. We need to be discussing it with our friends, right? Bouncing ideas off. That's what men are for. That's what men do for one another, is men have conversations. If I have a bad idea about something, my friends are quick to shut it down, right? And educate me on something that I don't know about. And if you're not doing that for your friends, and if you're not open to hear that, no, that's wrong, that's not how that would work, or I don't think that's how that would work, and here's why I don't think it would work that way, because of this thing, this thing, and this thing. If you're not open to hearing that you're wrong, or that you might be inaccurate about something, then that's a self-inflection thing, or self-reflection. We as men need to be open and receptive to criticism from our peers, and not take it as a personal attack when I misstep or when I say something wrong.
Man, that's a good segue into our discussion that we had before about accountable masculinity.
Accountable masculinity.
So like it's over there in I wrote a definition out earlier because me and Unkle was talking about it. We got to define it first, because it's a very useful phrase if it's defined the right way and applied the right way. And I wanted to try to capture it in like in digestible nuggets. So go ahead, and I already know you put it on the private chat. Just go ahead and read it, please, if you don't mind. Don't forget to unmute your mic. I see you ready to get teed up.
I got you.
Yeah.
Accountable masculinity. This one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Accountable masculinity must promote the advancement of men without putting women down in the process. Being able to teach, follow, and accept constructive criticism. Being a person of service, obligated to a higher purpose than he serves, in which all those in his care are provided for.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, like, because we don't want to have a conversation about alpha and beta, because like in a situation that deals with survival, everybody's not the same. Everybody don't have the same training. Everybody don't have the same situation awareness, and everybody's got a perfect plan until that first shot gets popped off. Have you ever heard of a round?
Mike Tyson.
Yeah,
Mike Tyson. Everybody's got a plan until they got punched in the face.
Yeah, but that's way different than when you hear a round flipping past you. You know what I'm saying? So, but most people don't get a chance to respond or react that way. But like, I think eventually, as a man, as you get older, you should strive to want to be a teacher. You should strive to want to mentor. And in order for you to do these things, you have to have a resume of experience where you've actually accomplished certain things. Because when people come to you, you got to be credible, right? So, or else you're just setting people up for failure. And I think after a certain level of experience, and like again in the accountable masculinity conversation, we're talking about being a person of service, willing to take the lead, you know what I'm saying, and actually lead. And then also understanding that the path to leadership is knowing how to follow. And that's where you start getting into the constructive criticism, like what Dustin was talking about, being surrounded by the right people that reinforce, confirm, or deny whatever it is that you're talking about, so you don't look crazy when you leave your soapbox. And I think that it doesn't matter if we have the answer right now about how to protect ourselves. I think the mindset has to be there before you actually have something to go along with it to make it tangible. You know what I'm saying? That's why we're still looking for so many answers right now, because we haven't had the right mindset, conversation to prepare us for the worst case scenario and be able to take charge of a situation if a hostile event like that takes place.
Another, to piggyback on that, I think one thing people need to learn, men can learn from this Highland Park shooting, and people in general, it could happen. Jesus, Christmas, people go out and they forget, they get comfortable again. Like we did last year, we got comfortable. Nothing's changed to this. It could happen. You have to think that in your head. You're not special. None of us are. It could happen at any time. Be realistic to that environment. Stay as long as you feel comfortable. After you start feeling not comfortable, leave. It's not about getting it's not about getting the next views and likes. I mean, I don't understand why people are having such a hard time. I went to a baseball game and I'm like, I ain't gonna stay here long. Why? Because I not want to take my car out and wait for that long ass line to park so I can miss the last inning. I'm good. I'll listen to it on my radio. But that's thinking ahead. But I'm realistic to that. I'm not gonna get in my car after the game and go, oh geez, now I'm following behind all these people. No, a parade, it could happen. A Boston Marathon. Look at that's what we live in today. Guns ain't going nowhere. They're not going anywhere. If you put guns, if you try to take guns away, all they're going to become is collector's items, and everybody's going to collect them even more. That's all it's going to be, and it's going to be an underground market. It's not going to be above ground anymore.
I just want to say that the Boston Marathon was a bomb and not a shoot.
Oh yeah, of course. But still, you know what I mean? It can happen. That's how I look at it now. Anywhere I go, from a movie theater to baseball park, shit can happen, man. I'm realistic to that now because I see it too many times. You know, that's what we can learn from this. You ain't special. Wherever you are ain't special. It could happen at any time, place. I think people need to wake up to that reality. The world is not the same. After this pandemic, it will never be the same, unfortunately.
Oh, we already 2 years past that.
Yeah, but normalcy is not the same. This is the new norm right now.
So go and give us Antoine's survival guide for surviving.
I said it many times. You have to be more vigilant today. You have to really go where you're wanted. You go where you feel comfortable. Look around. See where the exit sign is. Be suspicious. If you see something suspicious, talk about it. If you don't feel comfortable,
I think people talk about the mental health of the shooter, but nobody ever talks about the mental health of the people that actually survived it.
Oh, I hope, boy.
Well, that doesn't grab headlines, but we did accidentally see.
That's a whole nother live stream to keep it real.
They literally said
exactly, and that's those are the points that I like to bring up. The media gonna have its own headline. Let's talk about the second and third order effects.
But what I was saying on the second and third order effects, or to speak to that, I did see where they had deployed teams of grief counselors and psychologists, and people volunteered their time. Folks from Doctors Without Borders and things like that went down there. There was a large pouring, and from what I'm understanding from a little bit of research I've done, they're still there. So there are second and third order effects that are helping people, but like I say, we just don't get to see it because they don't want us to. It doesn't grab headlines. It doesn't get you to watch the 30-second YouTube clip.
Yeah,
hey,
you're right about
hey
that.
Marty, I see you in the background. I need you to cam up.
You know, it's unfortunately it's true. You're right. People love chaos. they love to see that
sells.
It's drama sells, sex sells. I mean,
drama sells.
It really does. You know, unfortunately, but they make money off of that. You know.
Hey, welcome to the show, Christmas. How's it going, man?
All good, all good. A bit tired, but I'm here.
Hey, I appreciate you jumping in, man. What do you want to add to the conversation?
I gotta catch up first. I think I was I was watching a live stream for about the last 10 minutes, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I think the last thing I heard you guys talking about was, what do you do to protect yourself from, these types of things? There's nothing you really can do other than, be extremely cautious, protective, whatever form of protection you like to have, whether that be, knives, tasers, guns, or what have you. I mean, you get to pick your poison on that. But I think for me personally, I've always been, an overly cautious person. Like, I'm judging people from the moment I meet them. I'm observing, all your movements, everything you say. Like, what do you mean at face value? What could you potentially mean, underneath the surface? So you could be vigilant and always be aware of your surroundings. I don't really like to go out very often. I don't like crowds. I avoid crowds. I don't go to any places that don't have more than one exit. I have to know where all the exits are, even the secret ones like the fire exits and stuff like that. So just be overly cautious is the main thing.
That's all you can do. He's right.
It's all you can do because, like, he's right. It's literally all you can do. I mean, you don't know. There's like, if the police could get there before things happen, then we would be living out Minority Report. You know what I mean?
And look, that's not a guarantee because we watch the police stand by and watch kids get killed.
Oh yeah, like they were actually there, like ready, and still ain't gone nowhere. Well, that is definitely
after being shot at by the shooter.
But they had to wait for the order to go.
Oh, they were shot at?
No, they were shot at first by the shooter.
You have to wait for your order to go.
Did you
so
hear
they made a conscious decision to not go in and do their job?
Listen, you can I'm the devil's advocate. They have to wait to order. So if they go in and they get shot, they're gonna blame them for going in. They should have waited. And if they don't go in and get shot, they're gonna blame them for waiting.
That's part of the job. No, there's no double-edged sword.
Like, that
risk is a part of the job.
How many times something happens and you go, you should have waited, and then if you don't, you should have gone in. They were in a tough spot, and if you guys are in the army, you know, if you're following command,
ain't no tough spot. As kids get shot, we going in. Fuck them.
Yeah, but that's your call, right? Some of them actually follow.
That's the only call. That's the only call.
No, I and probably is for you and I if we're going to be gung ho and GI Joe. But I'm just if they
I'm going to correct your feelings here real quick. I'm going to hurt your feelings. The just 2 hours ago. A little over 2 hours ago, Eastern Standard Time, they interviewed a Texas cop who had a sniper rifle and a target solution package for the Uvalde shooter that was denied the ability to take the shot well before all of that stuff went down. So he was told not to pull the trigger. They didn't have to go in, but a trained sniper, had a target package solution, and he was told not to take it. So it wasn't that they weren't debunking orders or waiting. You got to wait for order. Blah 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 blah. They were actively telling him not to go. So a lack of orders is way different than orders directing you to do something different.
In that particular case, maybe that's how it went down. Maybe that's how it's in. But I'm just saying, if somebody's telling me, and I'm in the army, I'm a sniper, I'm not taking the shot against what I'm told. I'm taking a shot when I'm told you have clearance. Go for it.
Well, in the military, we have what's called directed order, right? So if Unkle was my direct senior in the military, right? If he told me to do something or not to do something, that was a directed order. But my creed as an NCO and my underlying directives as an NCO was to make the best decision possible in the absence of orders. Right. So if he wasn't around to tell me specifically what to do in that situation, I was empowered as the next level below, or as the next lower rung in the ladder, that I was able to make the decision. It was now my call. And then the next guy down from me had that same right and authority. And the next guy down from me. If you see two privates out in the field digging a hole, one of them's in charge. Right? Yeah. One of them's able to make a call. Right? So if I'm there as a sergeant in the police force, as a corporal in the police force, as just a road trooper or whatever, I'm able to make that call at that time. They were being actively told to stand down and not to go. And that's the important difference that people aren't thinking about. It's not that they didn't go because they were told not, because they were told, nobody told them to go. It's they didn't go because they were told not to go.
Right.
Where does the actual right thing to do comes into play? When does that come into play? There's what you were told to do, and then there's the right thing to do.
Masculinity.
Bang, that's it. Where was the accountable masculinity when rubber met the road and they were like, hey, these are some kids. Either we go in and stop all of them from getting shot, or we don't go in and they all get shot and we end up looking like cowards in the news.
I'd have looked around at my buddies on my left and my right, and I'd have said, who's ready to get fired tomorrow?
Yep.
I'd have been like, look, bro, if I'm getting fired, we all getting fired. Let's do what we got to do.
Hey, man, let's go get fired together.
Fuck this job.
Yeah.
Like, we got work to do.
I got an interview in the morning anyway.
But see, you guys are probably coming from a different background, different line of work, a different upbringing, whereas sometimes we are willing to avoid, we're not willing to avoid, but we're willing to deal with the consequences for the good of humanity sometimes, or for what we believe in.
Love this, and this doesn't have anything on anybody. You guys remember the former director of the CIA or of the FBI, James Comey?
Yeah.
His deputy director. This is right after one of the big mass shootings happened, and the Department of Justice went out and published a letter, and they sent it through everybody in the DOJ. They said, hey, so check this out. This is what you do in the case of a mass shooting. Run, hide, lock your doors, turn over your desk, blah, 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 blah. The deputy, so this went out to all the entire FBI force. The deputy director said that returned and did a send all to everybody in the Department of Justice saying that if you're an FBI agent and we find out that you've been hiding and not actively running towards the gunfire, we will terminate you. Your job is over. That's why we gave you a gun. That's why we gave you a badge. You run towards the gunfire. Full stop. Sorry, Unc. I had to get that out.
If the police ain't running into the gunfire, like this asinine to think that untrained civilians would have a better plan.
And we talked about that before too.
So this is what I'm gonna do. I'm a sidebar, but I'm gonna come back to the shooting from 4th of July at the same time. So this is kind of a sidebar, but I just want to know by show of hands or however you want to respond. Like when y'all like see events like this, and I don't know, maybe it's me, but like, do you guys ever think about like what y'all were doing in this situation? Like, do you ever guys kind of go back and like kind of replay certain things or anything like that and be like, man, this is what I would have done?
No, I try not to do that because you don't know the layout of the place. It's too many things. Like a lot of people, you know the reason, like when you're on a plane and they give you a safety brief and they tell you to secure your mask before you help somebody else, right? Mm-hmm. And then they say make sure that you observe the lane to see if the closest exit, because it might be behind you. Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't pay that any attention. You know what I'm saying? So you might have a plan until somebody scared runs in front of you or trips you up or gets you trampled. You know what I'm saying? Everybody has an idea about what should happen, but that's utopia in your head. You know what I'm saying? Until you start hearing rounds pop off, people getting hurt and hit, and then you got to step over them, and then or either maybe some situation where you got to play dead. Who knows? You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of different things that can happen, just even in hypothetically discussing it. You know, and I think it's delusional to think that you got the perfect plan. You know what I'm saying? In a situation like that, or believe that you would have survived. I don't give a fuck how many Rambo and Arnold Schwarzenegger films you done watched. You know what I'm saying?
I was about to say, movies.
Oh yeah, I ain't got a. Yeah, I don't have a plan or anything else like that, but I do think about it. And, you know, and I think some of it comes from even when I was teaching ROTC, and, you know, they'll have scenarios and they will go into a whole bunch of what ifs. You know, what if this happens? What if this happened? What if this happened? You just plan and plan and plan and rehearse. And then you go out there and try to execute. And hopefully when you go out there and do your lanes, one of the things that you rehearsed end up happening. You get a good score, yada, yada, yada. Neither here nor there. But at the same time, you know, I kind of feel like, you know, you don't have to have everything. And maybe my mindset comes from, you know, maybe being in the military and how you kind of do an AAR. Yes, I don't know the layout. I don't know any of those things. But what I do is like, you know, what information can I grab from what went on to possibly be able to help me in a situation in the future. I understand that, you know, when someone gets, you know, everybody has a plan to get hit in the nose. We got all of that. But at the same time, if I can learn something more about the situation, you know, maybe I'll run. Maybe I ain't, you know, necessarily ain't going to the shooter, but how would I handle it different? You know, what would I, you know, try to shield my girl? You know, I mean, what would be my, you know, mindset? You know, it's just only so. And like you said, you can't predict what happened, and in most cases, you won't be able to keep it from happening. At the same time, just every little bit, you know, those micro things that you learn along the way may prove to be huge, may pay big dividends in the future. So that was just my 2 cents on it.
I liked it, Uncle, and the reason I like it is because it doesn't just apply to shooting situations. For me, like, I get on an airplane and I'm like, what happens if this thing goes down and I'm the only survivor? Like, what am I going to do? What if I'm injured? Right? Like, what's the direction of travel? Or if I'm driving, you know, we got some pretty rural areas out here. They got some big windy hills and things like that. If I end up in the bottom of one of these ravines because, you know, the lug nuts decided to give out on my truck, then what am I going to do? You know, it's I wake up in the morning and everybody on planet Earth is gone and it's just me. You guys have all seen that movie. You know, what am I going to do? Like, you know, and it's every situation. Free factoid though, if you find yourself in the July 4th shooting type of event from an elevated shooter position, don't run away from the shooter, run towards the shooter because they don't have downward angle. The further you get away, the more visibility they have on you. Run towards the building and then skirt away from the shooter. They can't see you, so it's all about angles of approach. So there's your free fact. If any, especially you guys that live in large urban areas with high structures, get closer to the building, get closer wherever the shooter's shooting from.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, I mean, listen, if I'm trained like these cops are trained, right? If I'm trained, and I hear those kids screaming in the classroom, I gotta break the rules on that one. I think I'll be being trained. I think I'm breaking the rules on that one. I think I'm going in because I'm literally hearing it, right? Because they're outside the door. I can understand if you break the rules on that one, right? Because you got kids at home. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to break the rules on that one.
Can I touch on two things real quick?
Hey, yeah, go ahead, Sherman. Welcome to the show. Thanks for hopping in. What you want to say on the topic, brother?
Thanks, I appreciate it. First of all, my name is Sherman. I'm a veteran as well. I spent 7 years in the 82nd, so I do have a little bit of training as well. Not a whole lot, but a little bit. Number one, there was 9 mass shootings on July 4th alone. 9 total mass shootings. You're only hearing about one. There were 9 total mass shootings. There were 9 total mass shootings on July 4th alone.
Jesus
In the
Christ.
last time I checked, we were running at 26 mass shootings in the last 7 days. You're only hearing about ones and twos of them. I can't remember exactly where. It was like a .org site that I saw that information. Mass shootings in 2022. We're sitting at like 26 over the last 7 days. I wanted to touch on a topic in relation to what you guys said. What can you do to protect yourself? You guys have kind of touched on it a lot. Hey, at the end of the day, have a plan. Having a plan is better than not having a plan, even if it doesn't go like you wanted to. Like you guys have mentioned on, know your exits, know your entrances, know your lanes or what have you. Know who's in, know who's coming in, know who's going out, know who you're there with. I can give you a story. Me and Vic, one of the days we first met, it was me, him, and another female, which was his cousin. We go to a bar. All he said was, hey, man, keep an eye on my cousin, make sure she's good. He sat in one corner. I sat in another corner. She was between us, triangulated. I could see him. He could see her. She could see me. We could all see each other all at one time. If something popped off, we know, hey, grab her, do what we need to do. This is when I first met the guy. You know what I'm saying? So it was a loose plan, but it was a plan nonetheless. I knew where he was. We all knew where each other was. And if I'm going with someone now, it's typically like that. I'm semi-paranoid. I'm like you guys, prior military. Hey, know where the exits are. Never sit with my back toward the exit. I usually try to sit myself away from the exit. That way I can see anything coming towards me at any given moment. And I can see all the people that I am there with. If something pops off, whether it be a bombing, a shooting, a knifing, or what have you, I should be able to see it coming, initially. And it can be as little as that. That goes for the guy. I can't remember which one of you guys said that you're anti-guns, you're scared of guns or what have you. You don't have to have a gun to protect yourself. You just got to be aware of everything that's going on. You got to be vigilant. And the people that you are there with, specifically if it's people that you care about, have a code word. Hey, break, fool, whatever the code word may be between you guys. Something just like no different than a safe word per se. Have a danger word. Danger word between you, your kinfolk, your family, your brother, your sister, your daughters. Hey, our safe word is our danger word is pineapples for all intents and purposes. You hear the word pineapples with the right inflection, hey, get on my 6, be where I'm gonna be at. And if you can't be where I'm gonna be at, take a safe route and get to this particular point in 5 or 10 minutes. Have a time frame of when the events start. And none of this is gonna be perfect because in a fog of war situation, time, seems to move fast, but it's actually not, it's a skewed perception of time. But just having a plan can get you a long way when it comes to protecting yourself and those you care about.
Hey, man, I appreciate that. It's 3 of us, 1, 2, 3, 4 of us has been in the military. Christmas, you been in the military? Or no?
Only on Call of Duty.
Oh, Call of Duty, okay. So in your mind, yes.
Thank you for your service.
Nah, thank you for your service. So 4 of us have been in the military, and I don't know how everybody is, but I'm asking the civilians, the ones who, because I just want to compare, and we got service members and non-service members on here. So Antoine, Chris from across the room, across the table, and Christmas. Do you guys like, going to buildings and like he was talking about, like sitting so you could see the door? Like, do you guys think about those things, like when you guys are out in public? And if so, or if not, if you do, where did that come from?
Mine came from my father. All my stuff came from my dad. My dad told
me. Your father taught you to do certain things like that.
He goes, always pay attention to your surroundings. Don't ever leave your back unguarded.
Was he military?
No.
Okay.
He was just my father was very paranoid. He knew his environment really well. He would always say, if you're standing up in a crowd, make sure your back is facing a wall so you can see who's in front of you. If it doesn't look right, it isn't. Just react to it. It's like he was always like if he sat down to eat or at a restaurant, make sure your back is facing the door so you can see who's coming. Stuff like that. It was just he was always aware, right? Okay. So my all that stuff came from my dad. I wouldn't know nothing.
What about the other two?
For me, my father, he was strict, but not overly strict. But the thing with him, what he instilled with me was never get into anything without knowing what you're getting into. And he always explained to me, sometimes you can't always physically be in a situation or be somewhere, but if you have literature available to learn about this thing, you give yourself an advantage of some sort when you encounter it. So I couldn't do anything as a kid when I was living with my father before doing my homework, reading. So anything that I was ever interested in, he would always take me to the stationery store and buy literature on the particular thing. So in that, I've always read, I've always researched any and everything that I get involved in before engaging in anything. So naturally, I'm a very, observative person. I always scope my surroundings. I pay attention to the people I'm with at all times. Like if I have certain friends that I know that are into certain types of activities, 10 to 1, I'm not going anywhere with them in public because I know what type of life they live. So it's just starts in the home. My father would never let me, do anything without knowing what I'm getting into. Even something as simple as what I wanted to do when I left the country to go to school, I had to explain to him in full detail why I wanted to do it, where could I go with this, and all of that.
Gotcha. So what about you, Chris, from across the table? Oh, I'm sorry. What about you, Chris? Do you like see things like that when you're out in public?
Yeah, always. Mine came from hosting parties and clubs. When back in the days when crunk music was a thing, and fights used to break out and all of that, I would get there, set up with the DJs, and the DJ would be facing the door. I would be facing the door, and the owners would kind of let us know, okay, you can go out here, you can go out here, you can go out here in case of emergency. Like even right now, sitting on this live stream, I'm facing my front door just so I can see, just so I can see what's in front of me. So mine just came from the atmospheres that I was in before. And then it just became a habit. Like even when I'm going out to eat, I'm sitting facing the door. All of that. So, it just came from life, really.
I got you. Hey, if you hadn't already, hit that like button. Shout out to whoever this Facebook user is. Bring more white boys on the show, because at this point, so if there are any white boys out there that want to be on the show, you're more than welcome to come on and give your opinion, give your perspective. We love to have you.
I like to know why
says always face the room in a restaurant. I argue with my wife and make her get up if she takes my seat.
Exactly.
I'm the same way. But my girl already knows. Like she already know how I am. So, and then sometimes if she, we kind of in there and she like, babe, is this okay? You know what I mean? So she's aware. And I think that's a good thing. Sandon also says he can't sit with his back facing the room. I'll be uncomfortable the whole time. Same thing.
Right.
Even if I'm in certain situations where I'm kind of forced to, I'm still kind of sort of on edge. You know what I mean? So it's like, I mean, it
I'm
just
the
is
same
what
way.
it is.
I'm very OCD with stuff like that. Extremely.
Yeah. It's like if you're walking down the street.
When I go into movie theaters, I absolutely have to sit somewhere in the corner near the middle where I could have like a swivel view of the entire theater.
Yeah.
Man, is that healthy though? Or is it?
It is. It is.
You know what I mean? To be on alert like that every time you're out.
Look, it's even more unhealthy than not be
have no interest. I have no interest in ever being caught slipping.
Yeah.
Ever.
Hey,
even my best friends, every day I see anytime I see one of my best friends, I am reevaluating our friendship all over again every single time, looking for any change in the way they moving, how they acting, stuff like that. You have to be. I don't want to get caught slipping. No circumstance.
Yeah, I agree with that too, because you could be walking, like you guys probably do this too. You know, when you're walking with your girl down the street, you make sure she's on the inside and you're on the outside where the streets when you're walking, right? You
Absolutely.
know, she walks on the inside. The same way, you know, you just have that extra protective view looking around. You know, your peripheral vision is more aware. So it's like when I see people just loosely walking and the girls in the front, I'm like, man, guy, you gotta protect her. You can't be doing that. You know.
I have anxiety, so I use it to my advantage as opposed to letting my anxiety be a disadvantage. So my tendency to overthink every situation, I apply that to everything I do. So I overthink anything that I'm involved with and I over research on it. So as opposed to letting things scare me and give me anxiety attacks and stuff like that, I use the anxiety and I reverse.
Stay ready. You ain't got to get ready.
Facts. And the thing is, when I was in Canada, I haven't told anybody this. Not very many people know this.
You're telling a lot of people now, though.
I went to the ER at least, I'd say at least 75, close to 100 times over a 9-year stretch, just for anxiety attacks alone.
Jesus,
that's how bad it was. Like,
wow.
What do you think?
Like, where'd that come from?
Yeah, about to say, like, was that prior to you moving? I guess, like, when you lived in Canada, did you start experiencing that after you left the Bahamas, or
I had one anxiety attack in the Bahamas about 3 months before I moved to Canada.
What part of Canada?
I was in Prince Edward Island.
Oh, Prince Edward, okay.
The best part.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's nothing happened out in Prince Edward. It's right up there with Moncton, New Brunswick. Jesus,
trust me, if you don't like people, it's the best part. Trust me. But back to the story.
You're an introvert.
ever since that first anxiety attack I had in the Bahamas, this was in 2009. This was in like September. And when I moved to Canada, ever since then, I would have anxiety attacks for various reasons. For if I were to smoke a cigarette, smoke weed, do certain things, like have certain like feelings for too long, think about certain things like that has me distraught or stressed out for too long, it would trigger my anxiety.
Wow.
And I was going to the ER at least twice every 6 weeks. My roommates that I had while I was there could attest to this. When I disappear and they're looking for me and I know I'm gone, they already know that I took a taxi to the ER.
You don't think you should go check that out, like to see where that comes from, where it stems from, the root of that?
Oh, I've conquered it. I've conquered it already. I haven't had an anxiety attack in 5 years.
Okay.
Like I've completely conquered it. So one night I came back from the hospital and I was just really sick of just being on all the pills. Like I was on every depression medicine and anti-anxiety you could imagine. I had all of them, prescriptions for all of them. I was sick of it. I was sick of the anxiety attacks because a lot of the things that I like to do that are triggering the anxiety attacks, I was never going to stop doing. So one day, I went to the ER. I came back. I was really upset, really angry, super exhausted. I said, you know what? I gotta conquer this thing. So the exact same thing that got me in the ER for an anxiety attack, I overdid it. And I sat there and no matter how fast my heart was beating, no matter how dry my throat was, no matter how I felt like I was gonna die, I fucking sat there and I kept telling myself I was straight. I was straight, and I woke up the next day and I was straight, and I haven't had an anxiety attack since. And ever since then, I've been using my anxiety and my tendencies to overthink as an advantage to, do my research and due diligence on everything.
Wow.
Because the only way to truly conquer anxiety is to prepare for everything. It's the only way.
Hey, I like it, man. We about to close up out of here, but before we do, we're going to wrap up with final thoughts. Let's start with you, Christmas. Anything you want to say about the topic, the conversation we've had today, shooting, anything like that? Please feel free to give us your final thoughts. It's you, Christmas. My bad.
Me and Christmas.
Clear.
Oh,
Christmas. Yeah.
Well, I missed most of the show, unfortunately, but my final thought is just you can't really prepare for such things as, mass shootings, but you can always be overly cautious and extremely aware of your surroundings. It's probably your best and only real defense.
I agree with that. I think today, the way the world is, this is the new norm. It's the way it is now. It's not going to go back to the way it was. You have to be more vigilant. You got to watch your surroundings. I always say it, you're as good as the company you keep. I try to keep good company. I go where I'm wanted. I go where I'm wanted and needed. I avoid, if it doesn't feel right, I'm not going. If I go, it's to pay my respects and leave. And that's why I think people need to be aware of that stuff. I think for the way it's gonna happen, it could happen, it might happen, exists. And from now on, moving forward, you have to live your life like this. I mean, how many shootings does there need to be before you realize this is the way the world is now? This is the new norm. And people have to wake up to that reality. Unfortunately, yeah, it sucks. But you got to do your part.
And new normal is the next word that needs to go into retirement.
Well, why? It's the way things are. Deal with it. It is. It's not going back to the old normal. It's the way it is now. Things evolve. People evolve. People are walking around with guns now. A lot more people have them, and you have to be aware of that. You have to be aware of your surroundings. That's what I'd say.
People have been walking around with guns from the 70s. Probably the 60s. It's just the differences in mindsets now.
I love the
pulled out and waved around.
I love the kumbaya stuff back in the 70s, but the way it is now, they're carrying it even more. Things are happening even more now. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, the past it's like that even more present now. And I'm sure Dustin would probably say gun sales went up. Or they stay neutral. I don't know, but I'm telling you now, the more people that I know are saying, I'm gonna get me a gun. I think a gun is where the world is headed. And I was like, wow, okay, that's my opinion.
All things are true. What you got for us, Dustin? Oh, you muted. Happens to me.
Come on, Dustin.
We'll talk about the gun ownership thing first. The number of guns that people own is up. The number of people that own guns is down significantly across demographics. Christmas.
So the same people buying multiple guns.
Yeah, okay. And you'll see, and it changes. It changes on an individual basis. But if you're gonna do lump statistics or whatever. The data trend shows that more people own more guns, or less people own more guns. Essentially, is what's going on, because the significant amount of the young people in from every background aren't buying firearms, and if they do buy it, they buy one, maybe two, but that's about it. The Christmas talked about having a plan and things like that, and he told that really heartfelt story about his depression and how it led him to the hospital. Talking about having a plan, one of the scaredest I've ever been in my adult life was when I found myself in the emergency room in Saudi Arabia. And I had no plan. I'd never planned for that. I didn't know what to do. It was the scaredest, the scaredest I've ever been in my adult life. But I came out okay. Back to the shootings. It's not a new normal. We hear about it more because we have more access to information, and we have 24-hour news cycles, and we have all this kind of stuff. But like shootings in Chicago and shootings in the 52 people were shot in New York City over the weekend. 8 of them died. You can look that up, Victor. I see you Googling. But the long and the short is, like say Victor said, be prepared by staying prepared. And as men, we have to rely on one another to to check ourselves. This is what I think I would do in this situation, and be brave enough to tell your friend that no, that's going to get you killed, and be wise enough to listen if somebody has something contrary to say for both sides of the table.
Agreed.
What you got for us, Sherman? Actually, no. Actually,
yeah, Chris next.
Yeah, Chris. My fault. Chris from across the table. Can you hear me?
This has been a deep conversation. Like a lot of the stuff I didn't know about. So this is a lot of unpack. So I guess my final thoughts would be the same as everyone else, really. Just it's sad that we live in a world right now where we actually have to have a plan to go out just so we can make sure that we can come back home. You understand what I'm saying? Like, so I guess my final thoughts would be just have a plan and make sure that you can stick to it to the best of your ability, because as plans will go awry, but at least having that base will get you from point A to point B safely, hopefully. So yeah, I guess those are my final thoughts. Like I said, most of the time during this conversation, I was a fly on the wall because a lot of this I didn't know, and you know what I'm saying? I'd rather be knowledgeable about a subject instead of just blurting things out. You understand what I'm saying? So I appreciate the conversation, to keep it real. I appreciate it.
What you got, Sherman?
I just basically would reiterate what everybody else said, man. Have a plan, know who you're out with, know that if your individual plan is to go toward the danger, make sure that you know the people that you're with is going to jump off the porch and not stay on it as well. Be careful when you go into new places. There's nothing wrong with exploring, but be super vigilant when you go to new places that you're not familiar with. One last thought: Chicago, out of like the top 50 cities of danger, they're like number 25th or 26th. So I know Chicago is always getting beat up about gun violence. That's just a talking point that I hear a lot. But if you do the research, they are up there, but they are consistently, like I want to say Anchorage, Alaska is consistently within the top 5, but it's never mentioned. There's a couple of other cities that are consistently very dangerous outside of Chicago. So I just want to keep people aware of that rather than just beating up the same old talking points. That's all I got.
Where's Fayetteville?
Alaska is top 5?
Fayetteville always on the news. Where I'm at, Fayetteville.
I'm in Fayetteville too, baby. I know. I know what it is.
I gotta hit YouTube. Trap Lord Ross probably made a video on Alaska by now.
And don't comment. I know it's somewhere in Alaska that's like one in the top 3, and I think they do it per capita. But it's a whole lot of cities. If you actually do the Google search and say top most dangerous cities in America, you would be surprised of some of the cities that are above Chicago in most dangerous cities when it comes to murders. But of course, you always hear, what about Chicago? What about Chicago? What about Chicago? It's kind of tiring, but it is what it is.
Close us out, Vic.
Well, unlike the rest of you gentlemen, I ain't reiterating shit. I don't like beating dead horses. I'm the pivot point. So I'm going to like this whole discussion has been about what we can control versus what we can only influence when you really boil it down to it. The only thing you can control is how you respond. You know what I'm saying? Because if you can control it, none of these events would even be a topic. We wouldn't be the gentleman that would be okay with random acts of violence, you know what I'm saying, happening to innocent people. Now, what I will say is some of the things that, since we can't control that, the things that we can influence are us bringing visibility to stuff that gets washed over by events like this yet again. And the one thing that's been washed over is Jalen Walker, who was killed by Akron police, you know, shot at 90 times and hit with 60 bullets. He was unarmed, 8 police officers, 7 of which were white, you know, fired a staggering 90 bullets at Jalen, shooting him at least 60 times in his face, chest, legs, back, and feet, and everywhere else you could think of. He was mutilated. He was unarmed, and he was originally pulled over for a traffic violation. You know what I'm saying? So it sounds like everybody reloaded and shot at him again. You know what I'm saying? When you start thinking about emptying mags, shooting 90 rounds at a human being, but nobody's talking about the hell. We didn't even talk about it until now, you know? So I think it's important that when we start having conversations that get on the hamster wheel of cycles where we can either do thoughts and prayers or talk about, you know what I'm saying, what we would do, and none of us have the resources to act on those things, we sometimes lose sight of the things that can actually happen to us aside from mass shootings. That is a huge chaotic event, but like going about your everyday, you know, task where you could potentially end up getting shot by, you know what I'm saying, eight police officers and getting hit with 60 rounds out of 90, you know, it's amazing how accurate, you know, like law enforcement can be at the wrong targets. Meanwhile, like you sit out and watch school kids get shot up and not go in and pick and choose which laws they want to follow. So that's why I want to leave it on the pivot. You know what I'm saying? Like, worry about the things that you can control and understand the things that you can only influence, and be situationally aware of what's going on around you. And even though it happened to somebody else, you're not exempt, but pay attention to the things that we can bring a larger voice to, where it can serve a greater purpose. Because when we can serve one human being by bringing visibility to their situation, while everybody else's situations get washed over and no accountability is pinned towards it, we have a different type of obligation as men who practice accountable masculinity. And that's what I want to say on the way out.
Hey, I like it. Hey, first of all, thank you all, the panel members, the Sherman for jumping on. I appreciate you, your thoughts and information you shared with us today. Thank you to the Most Elevated Chat on YouTube for doing what they do. But last but not least, thank you all for who tuned in today. We will not be here next week. All right, won't be here, no live show next week, but we will drop a video. And some of us may be on chatting at the same time. So there will be a video next week at 7 o'clock, but we will not have a live show. We will be back live in full effect on the 20th of July with another great topic. It's probably going to be something similar to accountable masculinity. So stay tuned in for that. If you have a topic you would like for us to discuss it or be a guest panel member, reach out to me. My email address is in the description. Make sure you hit the subscribe button on your way out the door and check out the other videos on the Unkle Jr. Network over there on YouTube. We are out.
Bring home Brittany Griner.